exhibit out here for the refresh that we did and opened in 2021. And so I welcome you to go out and look at the exhibit, and it's a reflection of some of my involvement here. So I've been here about 4.5 years now in the role of education, kind of looking at the objects here, creating a collection system, doing some things like that. Some of you may know me from this book, my book, People of Cascadia. Longhouse has been carrying this for a long time in their store, so that's kind of where my credibility, I guess, comes from. So it was really wonderful today to talk here about the story. There are legendary people in this room that I've heard your names. I've never met you before. I'm hearing a story like Chad, your story of how this came to be, and meeting the architect who helped design this, and of course the tribal leaders that helped lead this the whole way. It's been really wonderful to be here. So I very humbly am here to share with you actually a smaller version of a training I did with the staff about 3 weeks ago, and it's on longhouses and woodworking essentially. And so I was asked if I would do 5 or 10 minutes of that here, and we upped it to about 15 or 20 minutes. So that's what I'm going to try to keep to. And so that's my subject here. And I have a little bit of a script just so I say some of the stuff I want to make sure to say. So it's really amazing that we're all gathered here today in this remarkable space to honor its 15th year. I mean, it's amazing. And you, the Duwamish tribe and friends, have created and made this place open to the public. It's a rare treasure for people throughout this region. I spent many years working with the Duwamish tribe. I visit all the cultural centers I can, and really, when I just really got into this place, I'm awestruck by this being a place that people could just walk into, come in and sit down and experience it. And I see it happen. Whenever I'm here, I see magical things happen of people encountering, people coming from the far history on this place. I watch people come in and sit down and just sit in silence, and you'll see tears in their eyes as they're just experiencing what this place means. I've seen people come from other lands, like from Hawaii and other places, and impromptu offer a song or a dance when all the staff will get together, and we'll see that. Like, this place just brings that out in people. And have you all here today and see this today, what a really special event. I know all of you here understand that. So this is a living longhouse. It's remarkable, and it's right placed along the river. We've been part of ceremony and blessings here, and here we are today to continue this age-old traditional use of ceremonial longhouse. I was supposed to be on this slide the whole time, but you're quite familiar with this. So. The design of this longhouse structure reflects the core elements of a traditional plank house designed over a millennia of adaptation to this land. Houses which served as home, work, and gathering places for generation after generation of Duwamish people. Early settlers named this the shed-style plank house, which describes the single-pitch roof supported by massive posts and beams and wrapped in cedar planks, roof and walls. And you can see that structure here in the post and beam construction, that single pitch roof, and the cedar planks on the wall. This is a mind-blowing, if you haven't seen this, I came in, I thought this was a model, a wooden model, and I didn't need to bring mine in. And I found out it's a cake. I can't believe it. And Christina asked me to send some photos that she could send to the bakers so they can make this cake. This baker has never made a cake like this before. So who is the baker? Do you want to give her name?
Her name's Barbara Ann Kim, and she's a local lady. She lives in Sumner, and she's been on a couple of Food Network shows, and she makes cakes. She's on Instagram if you guys want to find her.
Come up and look at it. It's just so you bring my model in. It's that single pitch shed style plank house. And you can see the post and beam construction reflected in our posts and beams here, which are stunning. And these posts, I scribbled a little bit longer. These posts are made from giant cedar columns, often hewn into square or rectangular shapes, which are then buried deep into the ground. The house posts, placed opposite to each other, as you see here, then support long roof beams, and which are held in place by sheer weight and careful notching. These permanent frames remain in place for centuries, as you can see with this. This is a Duwamish Longhouse, but it's reflective of the Puget Salish shed-style houses still standing. These will stand for hundreds of years, and the framing, the wrapping, taken up and down as needed. And here's a drawing of the last remaining house posts and pole of Old Man's house over in Duwamish, Chief Seattle's home. And this is, they aren't there anymore. They finally fallen apart as well. This is a painting of Old Man House, again showing the post and beam construction with that single roof beam going across. That was taken from an earlier etching done in the late 1800s. I think it's a little fantastical. The normal descriptions on the written. Thank you for nodding over there. I trust you. I was afraid to say that, actually. But I think it is. And even these, most of the written descriptions of the plank houses talk about the posts in the front being 12 to 15 feet high, and the ones in the back 9 to 12 feet. So to have them be, this looks like 30 feet or so, I don't know, it'd be a lot. So, but nonetheless, majestic in any event. Sometimes the interior posts, so the fantastical drawing I just showed you shows a lot of carvings on the outside of the house. Actually isn't so typical of the Salish houses, but carvings tended to be on the inside of the house and near the family whose importance it represents. And we'll be learning more about that as we get into our next speaker. These are some house posts done with the Pony Tribe. These are up at Beaver Lake Park and represent house posts today that we can go visit in a public place, and are some of the very few that are accessible in that way. So I invite you to see these. Now this is an important photo. It's amazing how little bits we get through a photo or a quote that someone made that can be just stunning information for us. In this photo, I really want to get the original someday and get at it with a microscope. But as we zoom in on this, we're looking at, this is a Duwamish house along the river here. And in the background we have what's called the gambrel style house. So this is the shed style, but there was a second house very specific to the Duwamish people that was reported as being unique to the Duwamish or Salish Sea people, with an additional roof structure on the side. And of note, which I really want to look at, a good photo closer, is the size of these roof planks. I want you to, I don't know if you can see my thing. Anyway, the size of those roof planks kind of peeking up over the edge. And they're wide, they're like 2 to 3 feet wide, and I just had David confirm he's seen written documentation as wide as 4 feet or so, 5 feet. So these planks, and these were works of art. Every single one of them was a work of art that was helping protect the people. And then these little shed style on the side, they were called cheaper boards. They weren't as elegant as the roof planks. I'll be sharing more with you in a minute. And that, I think, just created additional space. So this is my drawing interpreting the literature that I've come across, because there's next to nothing other than that photo. That's the only one I know that shows a gambrel style longhouse specific to Duwamish tribe. And this is one of my drawings, and then and then this is one of the records I found. This is in this book, Indian Houses of Puget Sound. Just a little manuscript here, written in the 1920s, and describes this house with a nearly flat roof, and I just really think it's another pitched roof, single pitch roof, with these extensions off the side that are create the gambrel effect. And this again is a sketch I just dug up for this presentation I did 15 years ago, and I never did finish it, but kind of showing what that interior would turn out to look like. And of note, when I did this drawing, I can't remember my source at this point, but that the side planks coming down the gable were held in place with pegs. It's my first reference of nails, something like a nail being used, and that was ocean spray ironwood pegs used to hold the planks in place. This is another painting I did a long time ago with a watercolor, showing that combination of houses in a village that might be found here in Puget Sound area, with a predominance of shed-style, single-pitch plank houses, the gambrel house, and then two gable-style houses here. And the gable means double pitch, so instead of a single pitch, you've got a double pitch here. And those were typically more for the wealthy people, or maybe for ceremonial. They were less common than the two others that I just described. And then here is another important photo taken along the Fraser River, but again, a Puget a Salish tribe village, and it has a combination of, and a predominance of shed style with gable up on top. We have a couple big shed, like a really big shed style over on that side where I start seeing the height, like at the far right over there. I'm going to say those are 25 feet tall. So again, this is a photo that is really an important reference for us. I believe it was still occupied at the time of this photo because of the planks still on the wall, the wall planks up. This is an interior of painting. So this is a painting done by Paul Kane. He came through in the 1850s before cameras kind of came into play. So he did an important job of documenting through his paintings some things that we use as references. I'm not going to go too much into the interior because I think Dave is going to give you some amazing glimpses. I do want to say when you have a massive, this is actually maybe a little on the smaller side, wide place. You have family groups set up throughout. They might have a central fire pit in a smaller house, kind of modeling what we have here with Mary Lou's incredible artwork here. But you also might have individual areas with fire pits. And let's see, I have arrows here. So I want you to note in this painting done in the 1850s, wide roof planks. He's definitely indicating that. The horizontal plank wall that I'm about to share more with you. The light coming through the roof in the back here, which happens by using a pole to move the planks over whenever you needed access to air, light, let the smoke out. And in this case, do the next thing next, and I'll say that. And then also these cattail mats. I love this painting because you can see cattail mats are all rimmed up in the storage area there, which are accessible by these ladders, these stair steps going up into the storage area. So this is summertime. They didn't need their cattail mats to warm the house. They roll them all up, put them aside until winter time. And then one of those cattail mats is draped over some poles here because it looks to me like they're smoking. It looks like haunches of meat over here, and the smoke is coming up and through and out that opening in the roof. So anyway, and I'm not even mentioning the dogs and there's so much in this photo that is important but relevant to the plank house discussion. Oh, and I want to add one thing with Paul Kane's photos, paintings. You're going to see a lot of them ascribed to being on Vancouver Island, but my understanding is somebody came in later and wrote that down, and it's wrong. It's the Straits of Juan de Fuca, most likely Sklallam area, and I'd love to hear any more nods on that. But this happens, and it happens with bad curation. It happens with the stories getting lost, and we start telling something and it's incorrect, and before long we don't have it anymore. So it's so important for these kinds of things to happen, and for me to get a nod from somebody that I know knows. So anyway. So this is planting a tree off of a live tree, and this took place. And it's hard to imagine pulling 3-foot wide planks, but that's how it happened. And David just told me some stuff, and I don't want to tell his stuff, but I'm going to say it. You can say it later too. But he said something about how in this act of planking, the wood warps. We all know how wood warps, and it would warp in our favor to be able to use for the roof planks in the next drawings that I'll show you. So all of that was understood. You know, that was part of this like, we're talking thousands of years of adaptation to this land to build a house that's super functional and efficient, and everything about it is just pure technology, pure art. And these are some of the tools that are used to process these planks. These are some in our exhibit. This is one. I was married into a Heidi family, and I was gifted this because they knew I would share it with people. So this is just a hand hammer, basically. This is a U wedge made from Western yew, which was the typical wood. And I'm not going to do any dramatic splitting, but I'm just going to demo what that might look like if I was going to be dramatic. Yeah, there we go. Dramatic enough. So you can believe me, wood on wood. And I used to do this in schools and everybody be impressed. And then I went out to a school where I lived in Carnation, and one of the kids in the audience goes, "Yeah, but it's cedar." You know, like, you're cheating. Yeah, exactly. Yes. All right, so I'll just put this here. And then, yeah, is it on here? I'll wait till the next slide that actually speaks to this. I think it's there. So the roof planks, just, you know, this was, the things I shared in my book were things I tried to share with, I'm a non-native person, I'm really interested in the subject. I work with schools and teachers. How come I didn't know this? Like, I've heard this from other speakers here. How come we didn't know this? Like, this would be common knowledge. And this is one of those things. These roof planks were absolutely ingenious. And they're carved into a shape that's tile-like. And they were arranged on the roofs in such a way as their sheer weight, and then also the direction of the wind would help hold them in place. This is a recent drawing I did for Puyallup tribe of a Puyallup style house, but you can see those roof planks come up and over, and that was intentional, knowing that the wind was coming this direction. They set the house up directionally to keep these on top. There might be a pole laid across during a storm to hold them down. In some cases, there might be some lashing to hold them down, but the advantage of having a roof that you could move was important enough that they didn't secure. It's not like they couldn't, they didn't. They had an intention for that. Rocks, you know, to see images of rocks holding planks in place, etc. And then we have the, let's see, let me finish this. So, and this is in this book again, this Puget Sound House, showing the two different types of planks. They're kind of distinctively different, where you have the more cupped one and then the shallow one to help shed rain. And I've created some models like the one I would have brought in, where we actually pour water on it, and it doesn't. It absolutely sheds rain. It's highly effective.
Heidi,
Yeah.
that overlap at the top, that also creates an airflow to draw the smoke out of the house.
Oh,
Just what they're doing.
you said a gap in the top. Oh yeah, it creates an airflow for the smoke coming out of the house without rain coming in.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
And the smoke is drawn out because the air pressure is made lower in the house than outside, and so it's the reverse.
Yeah, and when I did my model plank house, you have to wonder, what was the interaction over here?
It's like
And
an
you can
airplane
just
wing.
run a beam right across there, and you can get it darn tight, but you can also take advantage of that airflow.
Yeah, that's right.
Undoubtedly. And so we're still learning, you know, like this isn't all, you know, it's all fun to learn about and interesting. So the plank walls themselves were another art form here. The Salish removable plank wall, this again is one of my drawings to describe that, with the roof plank coming down, the removable plank walls coming up the side, and this is a model like this one here. And I forgot I was going to try and find someone to help me do this before I started. I'm just going to do it for you, unless you want to come up. Yeah, you know how to do this. Come back to this side. That's how to do it. So the thick one goes here. And then, so on this cake, you can see these outer poles are floating on the outside, whereas the bigger poles, they would actually be attached to the framework of the house. And then you'd have these floating poles on the outside. They actually wouldn't be in the ground, they'd just sort of be sitting here, and then the planks start going in. And again, you envision these planks as 3 to 4 inches thick. It's really important, and I partly for weight because it's holding things in place. But the other element that I learned as I got into sustainable architecture is if you want to collect solar mass using wood, like collect solar heat and absorb it through the day, you want wood no less than 3 inches and don't bother with more than 4 or 5. It's wasteful. And here are these plank walls and these plank roofs built to that exact specification. And I know that's not accidental. That is actually understanding that solar rays are, am I falling down my job here? And so, so it's not like setting on top, it's the overlap that's important. And the ropes were made from cedar boughs, twisted at some of the highest tensile strength in the world, will last a long time. And there we go, we got a cedar plank wall. So it sheds rain. Profile sheds rain, you know, when I'm at school groups or somebody else saying, well, what else, what other kind of weather? You'll have wind that could come through here. So one way of dealing with that could be with gloss or some sort of filling, but you didn't really want it permanent, you didn't want to chink it, because there was an advantage to be able to have a roof that could, or wall that could come up and down. We can talk about those advantages. So one of the primary ways of creating the insulation on the inside of the house was the use of cattail mats. And the Duwamish tribe is absolutely famous for their cattail mats. They're known for that. And so this is just a tiny little model. My bigger model is actually in your exhibit now. They would go all the way across the house here and create protection from the wind. But these are also very insulating. They're spongy. When you feel a cattail mat, you're free to come up here and touch these. In fact, I've had people say when you put your hand on them, you can start feeling your heat kicking back just when you sit on them or something. So before long, we'll probably have mats for us to sit on, right, throughout the longhouse. So the plank wall, and then this is reflected in the architecture here today. So when you look at the walls here with this effect of a pole, and when you look on the outside of the longhouse in the parking lot, we still have that same effect. But just keep in mind bigger, thicker, different materials that we can't even really get today. Right, beautiful, stunning. I've been up to Canada and Alaska and visited some of the old plank houses up there, and that were lived in. Actually, I think my ex-father-in-law helped build this one in his youth. Sorry, and what's of note is that every single surface on this structure, every piece of wood has been textured, and it's been textured, this is from that, using an adze, which is this tool here, and this is also a really important traditional tool here. This is my personal adze made with yew, Western yew, and with an iron blade, but it could have been a jadeite or an ephrite blade. And that was to create texture. I mean, just imagine it. Every single piece of wood, inside and out of these houses I saw, were textured with adze marks. And anybody here, I know we have carvers here, a few important ones in the audience, but I know there might be more. You and making canoes and doing this kind of work. And so why texture it? And I wonder, why would you do that? One, I'm sure it helped to make the wood last longer. I didn't bring it, but there's an added step you do when you carve sometimes is you can burnish it with like an antler stem, and you compress this surface. So you take away the splinters, you now have a surface that's smooth, and I think it lasts longer. I think it led to the longevity of these really valuable planks and beams that were used in the longhouse. So I always say everybody was adzing. Like everybody knew how to use an adze from children. It was such a vital technique to use. This is my attempt, and it was fun for me to do. Try to draw what an interior of a plank house might look at like. And here you have these, like this is so traditional here, with this double platform for sitting and sleeping on, and things would be stored underneath, especially like firewood, things you needed for daily life, and then storage above for your personal items and food, and then sitting areas to work, and then sleep. And these would be cushioned with cattail mats, layers of cattail mats. I once saw a docent, I won't name the museum, but just telling kids when they asked, well, how could they sleep on such a hard surface? And the docent saying, oh, they just got used to it. And I was like, I guess I'm going to start teaching. That was actually one of my, like, I better get out there, because that's ridiculous. The people here had the finest wools of furs in the world. We had the robes made from mountain goat and dog wool. Like, this was luxurious setting right here. Imagine this with cattail mats against the wall, covered with these really wonderful robes.
The female sprout of the cattail was round, and that they made very springy, long-like mattresses from that. That's when they slept.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I saw you mentioning that. And just all these different elements here. You get the mats on the floor. This might be cedar mats. And you've got some planking that can help redirect heat. I hope you guys can hear me okay. And then dogs again. And again, I'm just passing over them, but they're such a unique and important part of culture. So on we go. Other areas set up for food storage, including food pits in the center of the house where you wanted to keep your very special things like hazelnuts and some things a little more snack-like. This is a photo I found over in Quinault area, and it's fairly early photo. And in the background, it's the only photo I found of the use of cattail mats on the inside of the house, and you can see them. They're going all the way up to the roof line here. So, and I can see the sewing. I know these are cattail mats. So cattail mats playing a vital role. And then this is another painting, more of a sketch by Paul Kane called Family at Rest. And you're sitting on a platform, just resting with cattail mats rolled up, or a blanket. And then here I think there's a baby cradle, and they're collecting some of the heat from the fire with their dogs, including a black one, which is kind of unusual. So I think it led to some of the black coloring that we see in the wool robes that isn't necessarily dyed, but might be natural. And then I finally found this. This is a piece of art done by David Horsley for the dedication of a new house closed up at Beaver Lake Park. And of note with this, besides the kind of astonishing scene here of a gambling game and winter games and songs taking place, is in the background are cattail mats. And I've been told that sometimes these cattail mats were painted. And I've seen very little record of this, but this is an example of that possibility, that the cattail mats themselves were ornamented and beautiful and really fun to do. So it's all here. It's all in this little, magnificent building here, and that we're all enjoying today. And culture didn't die when European settlers arrived. I was married to a Heidi Carver, and he's like, art skill, we didn't stop. He's incorporating yin-yangs and all kinds of things into his work, and that's still traditional, So lighting, like what if we, like this, there's nothing about this building that isn't traditional. It's absolutely a traditional longhouse. But I wanted to bring in lighting. Historically, not only did you have heat and light from the fire, but there were also oil lamps made from stone bowls. I heard about them, I finally tried it myself. This is Gullikin oil, the smelt oil, could be whale oil or seal oil or salmon oil. And I just put a commercial wick in there just to test it, and it burned nonstop. I never did get the experiment to make it with what it might be, which could be cedar or brush or some things like that. So anyway, lighting would also be a possibility in the longhouse. Also possibly using, I've heard record of dipping the cattail head into oil and using that like a torch. I haven't experimented with that yet. I have a feeling that wouldn't end up well for me. I'd do something wrong. But we should. So I want to leave you with these two remaining slides of Paul Kane's depiction of villages. And these would have been actual villages that he was painting on the river. This one again says, this one says Straits along to Fuca. And so imagine, this along the river here. And then I like this one as well. You might even be a closer depiction of plank houses lined up along the river and all the activity, all the canoes, and we're still this way. We have all this, that river is still used for transportation. It's just not to it or our best efforts, So anyway, I leave you with that, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.